Once you've completed your introductory slide, you'll want to move on to adding a location. Remember, you have to have 5 locations because there have to be at least 5 stories. Remember when we did our brainstorming, we had lots of different stories that we could have included, right? List moments from the past, events from your past, or memories that you have about the past that you have in the space below. So I just listed a bunch here, and you should have a bunch. 15 to 20 wouldn't be too many. But when we came down here, it said now you need to choose at least 5. So you could choose more. 5's good. Notice that here we have them organized by government, economics, politics, society, whichever ones you have checks or X's under. You'll want to include that in the story for that slide. But let's go back and take a look at that. Notice how when we add a location, we can start typing it. And none of the slides had geography, but they all have a location because every story has a location. So say you went to Shear Elementary and you wanted to include that in your slide. I type in the word Shear. There it is. There's the address. I click on it. It's going to zoom in now for me. Here we are at Shear Elementary. And I have the option, do you want to add this to your tour? Yes, I want to add it to my tour. Now, I have the option of changing the title, adjusting it, adding up to 25 photos or videos. So if you have any videos from the time or photos from your time at Shear, this would be the place to use them. Really give a sense of place, of the location, and your experiences there to your audience. Again, you'd want to have the date that you started and the year that you ended here. So the date you started, the year you started, the date you ended, the year you ended. If you don't have the exact day, that's okay. Even if the month is off a little bit, that's all right. So with that in mind, if it's a specific story, you're going to have a very narrow window, like the trip to Disneyland that I took where I split my lip. But if you have a broader set of experiences that happened over a long period of time, that you're writing that less specific story where it's on a broader scale, not such a specific scale as an individual story, a singular event, here you would have a much broader date, and that helps establish that sense of scale. So again, if it's a specific singular event in a very small time period that you're telling a very specific story, like the one that you wrote last Friday for the bell work, the dates here are going to be pretty narrow in scale. Whereas if it's a experience that happened over a long period of time, like maybe your entire elementary school experience at Shear, this date is going to maybe be the day you started at Shear, and then the day and year that you ended at Shear. And that helps establish that scale. Again, depending upon the type of story it is, whether it'll be a summary here or a very specific story with people and events and outcomes, even in the summaries, you'll want to include people. You might not include specific names. Remember, I talked about my parents and my cousins and my children. Some names were but none of the names in the actual story that I wrote about were specific. And that's okay, but I referred to my parents, so it should be at least that specific in terms of scale. In a specific story about a singular event, the names would get pretty specific here. Let's look at the photos and videos for this a little bit because it's a little bit different. Notice that because you can add videos, you can search YouTube. You can search for images. You can upload photos and you can take a snapshot. So here you can actually use your camera on your device to take a snapshot if you need to. So your search options become a little broader there, but you can still upload photos from a jump drive if you'd like. So there you have it. Remember, when you do this, you need to have at least five of these locations that you should have organized and previously shared. And again, one last thing on your story here, whether you're telling that general story on a much broader scale or a very specific story, you want to connect it to the themes. Is it government? Is it economics, politics, society, and culture? There should be a connection there. With that said, best of luck on creating your personal history tour.